Good. Right, well, one of the great things about the 2CV is that you can take the seats out and have a picnic. That's what it said in the brochure. When you happen to be rebuilding one, it's also quite helpful to sit down and have your cup of tea. Made for you by your daughter, who's helping you today to do things. So it's great. You can sit down on the lovely, lovely vinyl. As I said the other day, one of the great things about this vinyl when I was a kid was, when I was about 7, 8, 9, we used to go to the beach. We had a car with this sort of upholstery in it, and after a day at the beach, you'd come back and get in the car, and this stuff would be red hot like magma, and you'd have to sit on that, and you were sat on that for about 5 seconds before your bum welded itself to the seat, and you lost a layer of skin as soon as you tried to get out of the car at the other end.
Ew.
Yeah, it was great. No, cars then didn't have air conditioning. It was terrible. Such poverty. Okay. Hi, Russ fans. So after I did the video yesterday of the big holes in the front, a couple of people said, "Well, what about the back?" And I thought I'd done some of that, but obviously I didn't. So let's take a look at that. I've got a helper on the camera today, who's going to move the camera around for me. So I'm going to pick it up. So we're going to look. So I think I spoke about this. So this is the remains of the bump stop on the inner rear wing. Clearly that's going to need a little bit of work, as it's rather rotten. So that one needs doing. And on the oh dear, more bran flakes. And the other side's much the same, in much the same place, but the front forward part of the wheel arch isn't too clever on this side either, so we'll need to do a bit of work there. But the good news is, if you look down at the floor, the boot floor, all the way around, where they normally rust out along this seam, well, most boot floors do, is actually really good. So I think the boot floor is probably going to be fine with a couple of little patches. There's a little couple of bits that need doing. And in these corners here, if you have a look, in the corners, everything's really good here, right the way down. Can you get inside there?
I'll try.
Yeah. So even in these little corners, there's no rot in there. There's dirt, but there's no rot. So actually the rear part looks pretty good. So, what does that tell us? The boot floor on this car is actually not bad. Everything else is awful. So, what we're going to do today, I think, is going to make up some braces for the body shell, because it's clear we're going to have to take the body shell off in order to do the necessary welding. So I'm going to brace it from side to side across the bottom of the B pillars. And then I'm probably going to put some bracing between the doors, where the doors go, so that's all nice and solid. So that's what we're going to do. Pause. Okay, so I have now put in bracings front to back across the A, B and C pillars, and also between two B pillars, so we've got strength all the way through. I don't think I need to put one across the bottom of the A pillars there. In fact, I think it might just get in the way of doing the bulkhead there. So I'm going to leave that out for now. Obviously, a few more holes have appeared since trying to do a bit of welding. I haven't done any welding for ages, so probably most of the holes are due to my shite welding. But there we are. Anyway, so that's where we are. Next is, well, I guess I'm finding all the bolts for the bodywork to get them loosened up. I've no idea where they are, so that'll be fun. We'll just keep taking some bolts out, I guess. Here we go.
Right, keeping aid up here. I was putting these bars in earlier, I couldn't help notice the white stuff here. So we're going to get that off, see what there isn't behind it. I suspect it's just a load of thing. But there's quality bit of bodging going on in here. I see paper. Wonder what edition it is.
Video start.
And what do we have here? It's a lovely windy day today, so everything's now covered in white dust. What do we think? Will it be the Telegraph or the Times? Oh look. Oh look, it's brown. It might be a Greg's plastic bag. The filler must have cost a fortune. Bran flakes. Bran flakes. Lots and lots of bran flakes. Might need a bit of work in this area. Just get rid of that bit.
Low power.
Yay! Yeah. What is it though? That's the question on everyone's mind. Hang on. Doing an archaeological dig when you're working on old cars. Well, it's the vinyl sunroof sensor by the look of it. Look, there's still advertising access, so that's a pretty ancient thing. Look, you can get a Diffra Herald or a Spitfire for 73 quid. So I think that's probably out of, what do you think, the Exchange and Mart maybe? Anyway. That bit might be solid. This bit not so much. Oh dear. Oh well. That's going to have to come off. Let's get another bit of that. Well, as you can probably tell, I've done a bit more. So let me just talk you through where we've got to. Again, it's mostly nuts and bolts, so nothing too exciting. So I did discover that the way that you get the rear door off, the boot lid off, is you need to take these little end caps off, or one of them off, and then it slides out along the runner here, which is the same as the bonnet. But I didn't realise where the screws were, and there's little screws in the back of that, if you can see them. And they go in the back of that, so you have to kind of lift this bit up and fish them out of the back. But I didn't know they were there, so that was a bit of a challenge. So wings are easy to get off. You've got bolts here, bolt here. There's a bolt there that holds the little triangular piece. It's probably got a name. And then there's two bolts that go on the headlamp frame that go on here, and then that means you're in. So that's all good. As you can see, the boots have kind of had it. So yeah, so got the wiring loom out of the hole, so you basically have to pull it through from this side, from the engine side. There's no connectors or anything like that. You've just got to pull them through from there. There's the nuts and bolts for the master cylinder are here, and then there's two underneath. And then down there you can probably just about make out the the steering column pinch bolt. So we've got to make sure that we undo that as well. There's some little nuts and bolts for the throttle crossbar here, which you need to get out as well. So that's pretty much it. So the engine could probably do with coming out, but I mean I might just do that after we've got the body off. Looking more at the rusty situation for the old rust pervs, you can see that this piece is a bit rotten along here, but it's not the end of the world. I've had worse, as they say. So I think that they do a small panel which is about that wide that goes in there and takes into account the this lip as well. So I've got a feeling I might just do that. Okay.
Video start.
Hey Rust fans, here we are. Just a little bit of an update on where we're getting to with taking this body off, which we should be able to do shortly, very shortly. So let me talk you through a couple of bits that we've found were slightly challenging. Getting these screws out of the wing were a bit of a problem, largely because of the amount of rust in there, so we've had to drill some of those out. We'll get to that. Other than that, getting the rear wings off is fairly easy. Don't forget that there are bolts up the inside here as well. 1, 2, 3 of those which you have to remove in order to get that out. And then the mystery to me when I started doing this was where all the bolts are that hold the body onto the chassis. So the answer to that question is that there's 2 there for the under the what would be the back seat, and then there's a hole down that side and there's a hole there. That one didn't come out, we had to drill that one out, or grind it off rather. And then there are sort of more obviously a line of bolts that go down each side of the floors there. They all came out fairly easily. Less obviously is you've got to pull the plastic bungs out and release the bolts that go through the floor there. There's only 4 of those, so 2 on each side. Releasing the front was fairly straightforward, but you've got to make sure that, see the pinion there, release the little clamp. You've got to take the bolt right out in order to be able to knock the steering column off the top. Mine was a bit of a bastard to get out because it was completely rusted in there, so we had to fang it. That was pretty straightforward. Removing all this other stuff is just undoing nuts and bolts. There's little tiny nuts that go and hold this little screen on here, but that were a complete basket. So probably going to end up having to buy some new ones of those. All the insulation stuff. Oh, sorry. All the insulation stuff is just glued on. Why they put foam first and then put the other stuff on the top, I do not know. But I had to get all of that out anyway because I need to get at the this bonnet panel. So I've ordered a new one of those so we can trim that out. Taking the windscreen out, straightforward stuff if you've ever done one. And as you can see, there's actually not that much rust damage to take care of here. So I think we've done alright, at least on that part. Getting the roof off is straightforward, just nuts and bolts and screws. And then I think we're about there. So that's kind of it for that. So the next job with my willing helper is actually lift the thing off. Hopefully we've got enough bracing in there to keep it all fairly straight. Okay, come back to you when we're ready to lift.
Video start.
So now the fun part. 2 strong men will remove the 2CV shell. Hopefully. Right, ready? Okay. Easier with 3, back end's heavier. Right, so let's have a quick look. Let's grab the camera and do a recce, shall we? So clearly we've got some holes here we need to sort out. Is that actually, no, I don't know what that is. We've got some holes that need sorting out there, but the size of the chassis don't look too bad. We need to go and have a good prod around in there. We need to get my orange screwdriver out and poke everything horribly. This is just all crispy. It's presumably pretty good under there. That's hanging off. Not sure what that does, find out later. Oh, I see, it goes around this cap, which is presumably for the brake pipe, which is rusted. Nice. Little tiny petrol tank. Some nice spongy stuff. Sitting the body on. It's actually in quite good nick, isn't it, really? When I was welding these things up in the 80s, I always used to go along here. But these look not too bad. If I don't have to replace the chassis, then that would be amazing, wouldn't it? It does look pretty good. Maybe the Z-bar actually worked. We don't appear to have any big holes in our cylinders, which is great. So on the whole, I'd call that a success, with the exception of this top plate. No idea how we get that off, I have to work that out. Okay, right. So now that we've got the body off, we can have a quick look at what things are like in the chassis area. And they were a bit rotten here, so had a little dig about in there, and it's surprisingly good actually, apart from me cutting through that bit. It's actually not too bad in there, but this front section here is all rotten, but the back part of it seems to be fine, and the lower floor part of it has got some holes in it as well, but apart from that, it doesn't look too bad. I'm not sure how you get the top bit off, so if anyone knows, give us a shout. For the rest of the chassis, if you look at the sides of the chassis, they are pretty damn good all the way along, really. Go on, show us how good the suspension is. Yeah. It doesn't make too many horrible noises, which is even better. Somebody's kicked the bottom of the petrol tank in. Looks like somebody tried to jack it up on the tank, which is a shame because it's a metal one, and I suspect that you can probably only get plastic ones now. So yeah, you know, these chassis legs actually look pretty good. So I think we're okay there. Things are not quite so pretty over here. We definitely have rust issues all the way along. There's lots of underseal on here, so I don't know if that's the Z-bar stuff or what, but you can see most of the usual places are pretty rotten. And we've got lots of underseal on everything else, so I know from looking at the other side of it that a lot of this is pretty good, so I'm not inclined to start destroying things that are already okay. That's off the tree, so we're pretty bad all the way along here. Right to the front. Ooh, Phillips screwdriver, Adam. We've got to get those two screws out of there for the remainder of the throttle linkage bar. Okay. I'll pop those out while I think of it. So it looks like what you have is a seam here to here. So this panel, there's also a seam there by the look of it, but I don't think I'm going to be lucky enough to just have that lower panel part. It might want to go all the way up, but I don't know. We'll have to investigate thoroughly.
Video start.
Okay, here's a quick piece on the... Oh, just dropped something. So let's have a quick look at this nice bit of rust that we've got going on here. So just talk a little bit about what I'm going to do with it. So we've got rotten all around the corner, and it's rotten pretty much in that area that you can see I've marked out, from there to there. There's a little hole there, which I shall come to.
So what I'm going to do first, so I've already made a cardboard template and I've made this little strip. So this little strip is going to go in this area here, and you'll see I've snipped some little reliefs in there so that it bends around a little bit easier. I really should get one of them shrinking stretching machine things, and then that'll be a lot easier. So that's going to go in there. Then I can repair this bit as well after I've got this bit in, which gives it the right shape, and then I can repair this hole here to this part. And getting the bend in there is going to be a little bit interesting, but you know, we'll make it work. We'll make it work. So that's what I'm going to do there, and that's pretty much the process that I follow for doing the others that you can see up here at the moment. So I'm just working my way down the driver's side here, and then we can go on to the other side where there's some even bigger holes. Okay, let's get on with it.
So, managed to get a little bit more done, so I'm just going to talk through a little bit of that. I managed to also find these. I've had these lying around the back for ages. I think they're scaffolding things or something. But I think they're going to come in very handy for laying a bit of 4x2 across a couple of these, and then putting the shell on the top of those, so that they'll be actually at quite a reasonable working height. I can sort of scoot around those on the little stool. So what have I managed to do here? So I'm sort of doing, this isn't all happening in one day. I'm sort of filming these bits gradually as I'm doing things during the week. So I've decided I'm going to take the engine out because I want to be able to turn the chassis over to get a good look on the underside and do the welding repairs there as well. It's far easier, bearing in mind I haven't got a lift, for me to just be able to turn the whole chassis over. So disconnected the inner drive shafts. That's just they just bolt onto the drums. That's nice and easy, and they pull straight off. The boots had it anyway, so that was dead easy. So the inner joints come out. The sliding joints in the middle, then I've just left those where they are. Got a couple of bolts at the back for the back of the gearbox. You have got bolts to connect the. There's 4 nuts, sorry, connecting the engine to the gearbox. If you want to separate them, you can. It looks like the engine just sits on 2 little mounting points down here that don't even have any bolts from underneath, which is quite surprising. There's a pan that goes underneath this whole area as well. Big piece of metal which is chucked over there. Big piece of metal about this size. It fits right underneath the whole thing. You've got to take that off in order to be able to get at the other stuff. Just unbolts, more 11mm stuff. So pretty much everything now is ready to go with getting this lifted off. So I've got a mate of mine, Steve, coming over in a while. He thinks he's coming to collect a tool that he needs, but while he's here he's going to help me to lift this thing out. So I'm pretty sure I can actually lift it myself anyway, so it's not actually all that heavy, but 2 of us it'll save breaking any backbones. So that's going to be the next part, is to pull that out, and then when that's done we can actually start getting things cleaned up inside here. Everything is filthy and caked in grease. And if it's not caked in grease, then it's caked in the lovely black stuff that they've squirted all over it. So trying to scrape all of that stuff off is going to be kind of full-time mission really, so we can see what we've got underneath. But it does appear to have done a really good job of protecting the whole of the chassis, so I've got no complaints about it from that standpoint. But there is plenty of clean-up needs to be done. Okay, that's it for now.
Okay, so lots of tidying up to do still, but that piece is in there now, and the rot has gone, so that's all good. Moving on to the next piece now, which is this one. So on this side the process I think is going to be identical. It's almost exactly the same set of problems. Although the hole's bigger here. I'll have to go longer, I think, with that part. Let's get stuck in. I'm going to do this bonnet hinge panel, which the hinge itself is actually pretty good, but as you can see it's not all the way along. So just going to start by cleaning all the paint off so we can see where the spot welds are, and then we can get the spot weld drill out and drill out the tops, and then hopefully we can peel that bit off, and that's the bottom of the joint. And then we've got to cut the top here somewhere. So, interesting. In order to actually get at the spot welds across the top here, with a spot weld drill, I've had to cut the hinge off all the way along, all that part there, the little lip that folds over, just so as you can get the drill down straight on it. Otherwise it would have taken ages. So I've drilled out the spot welds, been along and opened up the seam, so we'll be able to clean up that bottom lip when we come to put the new piece in. So the next part now is to figure out how much of this we need to cut off and where we need to slice it out here to fit the new piece. That's the next job. Right, let's get this bit peeled off. See what we got. Attach that. There we go. She's off. It could have been worse. Inside here is not bad looking. I'll show you. So, without me doing any cleaning up, it looks pretty solid all the way through there. Let's get a brush and just clean that out a little bit. We can see what we're looking at. So, I've given her a clean out here. There's a little bit of rust. I hate when people say, it's only got a bit of surface rust, because you know that beneath the surface hides something hideous. So we'll have a good dig in there when we've got a bit more of this lip out. So, but now that I've got this cut off, I can now see how the new panel is supposed to fit. So it's supposed to fit right on there like that. So as suspected, looks like I'm gonna the line I need to cut at is gonna be just where this lips into where the air conditioning panel fits. So that's going to be a pretty good fit along there, I think. Working under the tree today because it's hot, hence the shadows. So, but yeah, that's not bad. I need to adjust the length a little bit. It's a bit too long at the edges, by the look of it. Yeah, it's the same on that side. So I think I probably need to, I mean, the hinge panel itself is probably about the right width. I'll check the other one in a minute. But I think I just need to trim these edges back, because I think these edges are just a bit too long. Anyway, we'll mark up this top line and take the top of the panel off before we start trimming the edges up, because I can already see on this edge that there's a little bit of rust in there that might get in the way of us getting a clean weld. So we'll have a check in a sec. Okay, so I've done a little bit of fettling to just try and get the panel to fit nicely. So it now sits pretty well. Just need to trim this little hole here a bit. And the flange needs to come up across the bottom there to fit neatly. It's obviously not as horizontal as I thought it might be. So this is actually bent, this panel. Probably thank the postman for that. So I need to push that down in the middle, and then at this side, that's all now pretty much where it needs to be. This turn here in this repair panel doesn't look quite the same as this one. I'm not quite sure how we're going to get around that bit. It just looks a bit tighter, but we've got to live with it, I'm afraid. These repair panels aren't always perfect. It doesn't seem to have quite the right bend on it if you look. There you go. Right, let's get on to the next part.
Video start.
Okay, we're about ready to set the new panel in and get cracking with the welding. So everything's ready to go here, I think. Next step. Holes in along the new panel because I'm going to puddle weld because I don't have a spot welder. So I just made some marks where I want to go, and then I'm using my hole punch in order to get the head round the right way. Then I use the hole punch to actually get the hole punch to actually put the holes in. That's what I'm going to do now. Okay, we're about ready to set the new panel in and get cracking with the welding. So everything's ready to go here, I think. Next step.